Good morning, students. In the last class, we were discussing about the locomotion in protozoa, where we have already discussed about the types of locomotory organs. And as well as we have seen that the protozoans are exhibiting different kinds of locomotion, namely amoeboid locomotion, swimming locomotion, gliding, and metabolic. So let us see the types of locomotion in today's class. Coming to the first and foremost one, amoeboid movement. The locomotion which takes place by pseudopodia is called as amoeboid locomotion, which is also known as pseudopodial locomotion. So, we have already said that the pseudopodia are not the permanent structure, they are formed and withdrawn. So, regarding the formation of pseudopodia, different scientists proposed the different theories like adhesion theory, which was proposed by Searles, contraction theory, which was proposed by Dellinger, surface tension theory proposed by Berthold, rolling movement theory proposed by Jennings, and the widely accepted theory, Sol-Gel theory or change of viscosity theory proposed by Hyman. As per adhesion theory, the cytoplasm acts like a mercury drop and that will be spreading over the substratum, which will result in the formation of pseudopodia. But this was not a valid theory. Then coming to contraction theory, which was proposed by Dellinger. As per this, the entire cytoplasm will undergo contraction, which will lead to the formation of pseudopodia from a weaker point. But this was also discarded because there is no practical proof for it. Then coming to surface tension theory, which is somewhat accepted by so many people. What is the surface tension theory? As per the surface tension theory, we know very well fluids will exert a property called as surface tension. And as per that surface tension theory, the entire cytoplasm will become spherical due to surface tension. And from that spherical shaped cytoplasm or protoplasm, some amount of protoplasm will be coming out whenever that the surface tension is at some weaker points. When it is decreased, the tension is decreased, from that weaker point the protoplasm will come out, resulting in the formation of pseudopodia. So this was the surface tension theory, which was actually proposed by a scientist called Berthold and supported by two more scientists, namely Bushley and Rumbler. Then comes to the rolling movement theory, which was proposed by Jennings. And what did he say? And this Jennings observed this rolling movement theory in certain species like Amoeba verrucosa. He said that in this Amoeba verrucosa, pseudopodia are not at all formed and they are completely absent. Because the pseudopodia are absent, the particular amoeba will be rolling on the substratum. So it is rolling over the substratum but not undergoing any locomotion. So that's why it is called as rolling movement theory. But this can be seen only in such amoebae where the pseudopodia are absent, like Amoeba verrucosa. But last but not the least is Sol-Gel theory or change of viscosity theory, which was accepted throughout the world. And this was proposed by a scientist Hyman and supported by two more scientists, namely Pantin and Mast. So what is this sol-gel theory is saying? Let us see in detail. According to sol-gel theory, in the body of amoeba, the cytoplasm is differentiated as outer ectoplasm or plasma gel, and the inner one is called as endoplasm or plasma soul. What is this plasma gel or plasma soul? According to them, plasma gel is the outer layer which is thick in nature, less in quantity, non-granular, transparent and contractile. In contrary to plasma gel, plasma soul is the inner layer which is fluid-like, more in quantity, less viscous, granular and opaque. And something interesting point here is this difference between plasma gel and plasma soul is not permanent. They are interconvertible. What does it mean? It means the plasma gel can be converted into plasma soul and plasma soul can be converted into plasma gel. And this interconvertibility of plasma gel and plasma soul is a physico-chemical phenomena. What is that? It is a physico-chemical phenomena. How come it is happening? Plasma gel, by absorbing the water, becomes plasma soul, whereas the plasma soul, by losing the water, becomes plasma gel. Okay, got it? Gel, by absorbing water, becomes soul. Soul, by losing water, becomes gel. So that I have represented in the form of one equation. Plasma gel plus water gives rise to plasma soul, whereas the plasma soul minus water gives rise to plasma gel. Now let us see how the amoeboid locomotion is explained basing on the sol-gel theory. So when you come for the diagrammatic representation, we can see what are the steps involved in the sol-gel theory. Number 1. First of all, amoeba attaches itself to a substratum by the plasma lemma. What is the first step? It gets attached to the substratum with the help of its body layer called as plasma lemma. Then what will happen? In which direction it wants to move, that direction end is called as advancing end or anterior end. And opposite to that end, which you can see in the diagram, somewhat wrinkled surface is there, that is called as posterior end or uroid, U-R-O-I-D, uroid. So in the advancing end, whatever the ectoplasm is present, that ectoplasm will become thick. Already it is thick, but still it will become somewhat thicker and forms a thick cap-like structure. That you can call it as hyaline cap. You can see in the diagram which is labeled as hyaline cap in the advancing end region. Can you see that? So that hyaline cap is formed in the anterior end. At the same time, in the posterior end, that is labeled as trailing end in the diagram, in the posterior uroid region, whatever the plasma gel is present, that will absorb some water. Now you may ask me, Madam, how it will absorb water? Of course, amoeba is present in the water. So in the uroid region, wherever somewhat weaker points are there in the plasma lemma, from that weaker points of plasma lemma, water will enter. Plasma lemma is transparent and semi-permeable. So through the plasma lemma, water will enter. So plasma gel will absorb the plasma gel will absorb the water and transform into plasma soul. That's why the uroid region is called as zone of solation. What is that? Zone of solation. Because in this region, plasma gel is getting converted into plasma soul. And what is plasma soul? I told you, it is a fluid-like structure. So obviously, what is the fundamental character of a fluid? Fluid will not stay at one place. It will start flowing. So this plasma soul will be flowing along the center and will reach the hyaline cap and pushes the hyaline cap so that hyaline cap will be extended in the form of a particular finger-like projection. And on the either side of the plasma soul, plasma gel is present, which will be forming the gelatinized tube-like structure. So in that way, two sides gel will be there and in the middle soul will be there. Now with the help of pseudopodium, it will get attached to the substratum and drag the body forward. So that is all about the sol-gel theory of amoeboid locomotion. Now coming to the swimming locomotion, which is performed by both flagella and as well as cilium. Coming to the flagellar locomotion, it will be of two types, flagellar movement and undulation movement. Flagellar movement once again includes sidewise lash movement and one more is undulation movement. So when you come for the sidewise lash movement, the flagellar movement is like paddle-like beat and consists of two strokes, effective stroke and recovery stroke. What is effective stroke? First of all, the flagellum will become rigid and then bends against the water. And then it will be beating the water at right angles to the longitudinal axis of the body. That you can see very clearly in the diagram. Because of this beating of water, the organism will be moving forward. And what will happen during the recovery stroke? During the recovery stroke, the flagellum will become soft and will be coming back to its original position. As the flagellum is coming back to its original position, it will be moving backward. So in that way, the effective stroke and recovery stroke will bring about the sidewise lashing movement. And the next one we can see simple conical gyration movements. What is this simple conical gyration movement? In this, the flagellum will turn like a screw and the propelling action pulls the organism forward through the water with a spiral rotation around the axis of movement, and the gyration will occur on its own. And the next flagellar movement is undulation movement. So undulation will be causing from base to tip or tip to base. So if the undulations are from base to tip, that will cause a sort of pushing force. And because of that pushing force, the organism will be pushed backward. Can you see in the diagram? From base to tip, the pushing force is caused and the backward movement will be there, which is represented with the arrow mark, backward arrow mark. And if the undulation movements are occurring from tip to base, Okay, if the undulations are occurring from tip to base, it will cause the pulling force so that the organism is pulled forward. And similarly, when the flagellum ends to one side and shows wave-like movement from base to tip, what is that? Bending to one side and showing a wave-like movement from base to tip, then the organism will move laterally but in opposite direction. Okay, and if the undulations are spiral, then it will cause the rotation of the organism in opposite direction, and that is called as gyration. So these are all called as undulation movement. What are they? Number 1, undulation movement from base to tip. Number 2, undulation from tip to base. Number 3, undulation on the lateral sides. And number 4 is undulations are spiral. So in that way we can see by flagellar movement it will be causing the swimming movement. And let me say one more point is also, that is effective stroke is always the energy requiring stroke, whereas recovery stroke does not require any kind of energy. Okay, now coming to the next, euglenoid movement. What is this euglenoid movement? The zigzag movements which are occurring in the protozoans because of the contraction and relaxation of myonemes. Okay, what you can say is zigzag movements are wriggling movements which are occurring because of the contraction and relaxation of myonemes present below the pellicle in the ectoplasm is called as euglenoid movement. So the euglenoid movement in the euglena like organisms or in the flagellate organism is because of the myonemes. And then after the flagellar locomotion, it is about the ciliary movement or ciliary locomotion. So when you come for the ciliary movement, just like the flagellum, the cilium also shows back and forth movements during the locomotion. These back and forth movements of the cilia are also called as effective stroke and recovery stroke respectively. And here the cilia moves just like a pendulum or a paddle. What is that? It is moving like a pendulum or paddle. And the cilium moves the water parallel to the surface of its attachment. What is that? It is moving the water parallel to the surface of the water. Parallel to the surface of its attachment, just like that of a paddle stroke movement. And the movement of water is perpendicular to the longitudinal axis of cilium. The movement is perpendicular to the longitudinal axis of cilium. Now let us see the effective stroke and recovery stroke. The effective stroke. During the effective stroke, the cilium bends to one side and beats against the water, because of which the body will move forward and the water will be sending backward. Okay, body moves forward and the water will be sending backward. And during recovery stroke, the cilium comes back to its original position by its backward movement without any resistance. So it is coming to its normal position without any kind of resistance. So here also, just like the flagellum, the effective stroke is a energy requiring stroke, whereas the recovery stroke is a stroke which does not require any sort of energy. Okay, and here there is a difference between the flagella and cilia. What is the difference? Flagella will be 1 or 2 in number, but we have seen that cilia are many in number. The number may vary from 3000 to 14,000 also. Because of that numerous cilia will show 2 types of coordinated movements. What is that? 2 types of coordinated movements are exhibited by cilia. What are they? Number 1, synchronous movement, and number 2, metachronous movement. So what is this synchronous and metachronous movement? Let us see first of all synchronous movement. The name itself is indicating synchronous. Syn means together. So here the cilia in the case of ciliates are present, or their arrangement will be of 2 types. Some of them are arranged transversely and some of them are arranged longitudinally. Okay. So all the cilia which are present in the transverse row, they will beat the water simultaneously at a time. Okay, what is that? In the synchronous movement, all the cilia are beating the water simultaneously at a time. That's why it is called as synchronous movement. Okay, all of them together at a time beating the water. That is called as synchronous movement. And coming to metachronous movement. So the cilia which are present in longitudinal row, they will beat the water one after the other. First you beat, then I will beat. In a queue-like manner, in the metachronous movement, cilia will beat the water one after the other. That is called as metachronous movement. So you can see the diagram. So when this metachronal movement is occurring, do you know how does it look? Have you observed any time if a wind is passing through the paddy fields? Have you observed any time? How does it look? Yeah. Whenever a wind is passing through the paddy field, they will be bending slightly like one after the other. Isn't it? So just like that, it looks like a paddy field bending when a wind is moving across them. So it looks like that, and that is called as metachronal movement. And synchronal movement and metachronal movement together known as synchronal metachronal rhythms also. Okay, it is called as coordinated rhythms. These two together known as coordinated rhythms. And let me say one more point here is the ciliary movement is controlled by infraciliary system or neuromotor system. What is this infraciliary system or neuromotor system? We know, let me explain here. We know very well that cilia arises from basal granules. Okay, cilia arises from basal granules. And all these basal granules are arranged in longitudinal rows. Okay, cilia arising from basal granule, and all the basal granules are arranged in longitudinal rows. And these basal granules in turn are connected with one another by some thread-like structures called as neuronemes or kinetodesmata. Okay, they are connected with one another by neuronemes or kinetodesmata. And if you see a single row of basal granules along with their kinetodesmata, together known as a functional unit called kinety. What is kinety? Kinety is a single longitudinal row of basal granules along with their kinetodesmata. And all these kinetes together known as neuromotor system. All these kinetes together known as infraciliary system. And this infraciliary system is connected to motorium, which is present near the cytopharynx. Okay, infraciliary system is connected with the motorium, which is present near the cytopharynx. And thus the infraciliary system plus motorium together known as neuromotor system. And this neuromotor system helps in the coordination of beating of the cilia. That's how the ciliary movement is under the control of neuromotor system. If the neuromotor system is damaged in the ciliates, then the ciliates cannot perform the locomotion phenomena. This is very important regarding your any kind of entrance examination. They can ask you the question like this. It was found that in a paramecium, the paramecium was unable to show any kinds of movement. Which system might have been damaged? So the option is neuromotor system, or sometimes they may give you only as infraciliary system. And next, coming to the gliding movement. So what is this gliding movement? The zigzag movements in the protozoans, which is brought about by the contractions and relaxations of myonemes. What are these myonemes? The myonemes are the structures which are present below the pellicle in the ectoplasm. Okay, in the ectoplasm, just below the pellicle, we can see the myonemes. And due to the contraction and relaxation of these myonemes, the zigzag movements will be exhibited by the protozoan, which is called as gliding locomotion. Okay, and the next is metabolic movement. In some protozoans, a pellicle is present, and in the pellicle we can see some proteinaceous strips are present. And these proteinaceous strips will be sliding over one another. Okay, they will be sliding over one another, because of which some wriggling movements will be caused. And these wriggling movements are called as metaboli or metabolic movements. And let me say, gliding movements are exhibited by flagellates, sporozoans, nidosporans and some ciliates. And metabolic movements also exhibited by flagellates and sporozoans. So, metabolic movements in the euglena-like organisms are called as euglenoid movements. And metabolic movements in the sporozoans are called as gregarin movements. Okay. Gregarin movements are the metabolic movements in the sporozoans. And last but not the least interesting point is, we have seen so far so many types of locomotion. Among all these locomotion, Ciliary locomotion is the fastest locomotion. Okay, so ciliates are the fastest protozoans. With this, we have completed the locomotion. Thank you.